Former NCAA Player of the Year and Texas legend, NBA guard TJ Ford with us, sick on 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Thanks for your time today. How big of a win do you think that was for Chris Beard in Texas to get that win Monday against Kansas?
Well, Kansas is a elite program and always dominated the Big 12. So anytime we can get a win against Bill Self and his Kansas Jayhawks, it's always a bonus and plus for me because in my time I couldn't beat those guys. And to come in, you look at what Beard and the staff and the players are doing. I mean, we're doing a heck of a job of protecting our home court advantage and making it very, very tough for teams to come in and play very well and get wins.
Well, and of course you had that Final Four run as well under Rick Barnes, and he was in town a couple of weeks ago. How nice was that? And it seemed like it was almost a homecoming. It didn't end well because he was fired and then went to Tennessee. But how cool was that he was back at Austin?
I mean, I think it's just cool the fact that, it's sport. And I think if you're in the business of sports, you're going to have to move around, and it's going to be some hard times where you have to move on both sides. And I think the things that he left behind in Austin and the friendships that he created while he was in Austin, they're still intact and they're still there. So it was a great homecoming for him to be able to see all his friends, families, and people that supported when he was there at the University of Texas. And he left it in good hands. And, for him to just even take the game to come back, I'm not sure how many coaches would actually do that from a place that it didn't end well. But, that was years ago. Everybody had moved on, and it was a great atmosphere, and it was a great game that allowed all of us to come down to the last shot. I'm glad it went in our favor as the Longhorns, but I thought it was a great time to see him coaching in another uniform in person for the first time. Just spending time with him. So I enjoyed it. And I look forward. I think we have to go there next year. So I look forward to, being in Tennessee when Texas plays next season.
You mentioned it's part of life, whether you're in business, sports, whatever anyone does, even younger or older, that you have to move on. And you had to kind of do that throughout your NBA career. And injuries also played a big part in that. How much were you tested, TJ, during that time, and how much did it make you a better person?
Well, I just love the game of basketball. And I think for me, my ultimate goal was just trying to always be the best or be considered the best in the world. And that's something that I dreamed of as a kid. I was able to accomplish that in college. And I never thought about being the best college player, right? I would say I skipped over that part of it and was thinking about being the best point guard ever to play in the NBA as a kid. But, injuries, teams, situations, the business of the NBA, with contracts, a bunch of moving parts. I think as a professional, your job is to be professional. Your job is to show up every day and do the best you can do and compete at the highest level that you can compete at.
Baylor. I'm sorry.
So, for me, you learn a lot in that experience, though, right? I was able to live in different cities. I was able to, meet different teammates that I still have relationships with today. And, I don't think I left a city for not being known for playing not playing hard. So I think I was respecting every city I played.
Baylor in Texas plays Saturday at the Farrell Center. You know what Baylor's story with what Scott Drew has done in his 18, 19 years and in last year's team with those great guards. How much did you get a chance to watch them play, and how impressed are you with what they've done?
I know the coaching staff over there. We send our kids to the camps there in the summertime. So when you look at the product they're putting out there, when you look at the culture he created there for Baylor basketball, I mean, it's amazing. His teams play very, very hard. His player development system is amazing. So when they take kids out of high school, they don't just throw them out there. They grind it out and get them prepared to perform and play. And when you look at, Coach Tang, when you look at Alvin Brooks, that I'm really close to those two guys, it's amazing what they're doing. And going into Baylor, it's always been a tough place to play at. And, it's going to be a packed house. It's going to be tough being on the road. But you got to give them a lot of credit. When you look at that Central Texas basketball between Baylor and Texas, it's starting to become a hotbed. And I think the from a national standpoint, that I-35 is some pretty good basketball.
You mentioned Jerome Tang. He mentioned your father, Pops, who helped basically raise him as a basketball player. He also brought up that when games were being played and you were younger, if there was any kind of a dead ball timeout, you'd run onto the floor and start shooting baskets or dribbling and all that kind of stuff. How about those memories?
Oh, great memories, man. That's where it started, being able to watch my dad and his friends, seeing them play, and, just them being able to give you information and guide you as a youngster was amazing, right? And, I couldn't be more thankful for having, a father, parents, and his friends who just going play basketball whenever, wherever, at any time. So that was an amazing childhood for me.
TJ, I covered the state basketball tournament when it was in Austin for many, many years, and I can remember some of the great teams back in the days of Bay City, and then obviously the Willow Ridge, the dynasty of what you guys did and how many games in a row and the state championships. How good? I mean, those teams could play. Now you see teams playing all over the country against everybody, academies, whatever else. How good, though, looking back at that Willow Ridge run, how good were those teams?
Man, it was amazing for us. We didn't have media coverage. We didn't have the video. So everything that we, was fighting for here in the state of Texas, which, we seeing the outcome of it now, of having exposure, being able to showcase that we have the best talent in the world. For us, going and play against other top, I would say prep schools, because, at that time in my era, we wasn't really, I don't think we was playing high school national guys. It was more like prep schools. But just to be able to see what that was like, we didn't have video, right? All you heard was, all you could do was hear about a team,
yep,
or read an article that some evaluator wrote on that program. So for us, being able to play some of those top high school teams, for us and us being able to beat them put us on a national level. So it's amazing seeing kids. I mean, I wish those games was on TV back in the day, right?
Oh my God, yeah. Can you imagine? You would, that team, you guys would have played Oak Hill. You would have played the IMGs and all that other. That would have been Mount Verde. You guys would have played right with them.
Yeah, I think we'd have beat them all.
Well, you had the long winning streak, and I want to ask you this question as well. There was a stretch in the 80s and then into the 90s, and of course then you came in towards the end of that decade. But there was a stretch when Texas high school football was the name. Everyone always knows about that. But there was a run there when Texas started feeding college teams incredible talent. Do you feel like you were a part of that run as well?
Of course. I mean, there was some guys before us that did an amazing job. Look at Rashard Lewis. I think for me, Rashard Lewis is probably one of the most guys that's not recognized as the history of Texas basketball, which he should be. I mean, watching him at Elsig as a freshman, that kid was amazing. I never seen nobody with that size that could shoot, dribble, and was super athletic. So by him being able to jump to the NBA out of high school, I mean, for me personally, he gave me the belief that I could be an NBA basketball player coming from, an area that was 15 minutes from where I live. So for him, he's my idol when it comes to high school talent that set the bar and allowed myself, the Daniel Ewings, and even Alton Ford, that was a year ahead of us, provided that exposure for us and gave us that belief and gave us that conversation that, something's going on down there in Texas, right? Mm-hmm. So he's a guy that does not get a lot of credit, not talked about. But for me, he was the stepping stone for me personally, Rashard Lewis.
Were you old enough to remember the teams that Bay City had? I mentioned them back, I think, in the 80s. And I'm not sure how much you remember.
I was born in 83.
Well, I just remember that's when it seemed like the surge came. And obviously Phi Slamma Jamma had their great run during that time as well. But there were Arkansas had kids from Texas everywhere. And I'll always remember that. And those state tournament, man, that venue at the time was rocking. During that time. Would be remiss if I didn't mention your academy. You mentioned sending kids to the camps at Baylor and elsewhere. How much fun has it been for you to be able to give back and be a part of that as well?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, I pass up college, NBA jobs during this time span because I just love being able to impact kids. Right? I see myself in those kids having a dream, having goals, and going through the process of trying to figure it out and giving them the life skills that goes within that, right? Mm-hmm. Most of the guys are not going to reach their goal and reach their dream. So being able to keep kids focused, being able to allow them to think about being able to pivot at some point in their career, being able to build relationships through the game of basketball. So a lot of the old things that people discuss and talk with us about is missing from this generation, right? Partnerships, friendships, collaborating, all those different things that I think networking is very important for these kids. So I just believe that, my experience, I just love being able to teach them because somebody taught me, and I had a lot of successful and a lot of good people that helped me when I was young, no matter what their nationality or what their race was. And I think that was important. So we want to be able to do those same things and give people my life story and implement it within theirs.
TJ, thanks, buddy. You were fantastic to watch play. Appreciate. Good luck and continued luck with the Academy. TJ Ford, National Player of the Year, Texas Final Four, NBA, and just an overall great dude based on what Jerome Tang, Alvin Brooks, and others have said, and people knew that anyway. Sikkim 365 Radio.
All right, TJ Ford, we appreciate that. Texas coming up, the huge win Monday against Kansas.